Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video we'll learn about how to build all the major chords for the 12 existing notes and how they fit on the circle of fifth. First I want to explain a new concept, and that is the perfect fifth, which is very important in understanding scales and chords. A perfect fifth is the interval or a distance between two notes that are 5 letters apart and have a gap of 7 semitones. So here you remember the C major scale, and we have the scale degrees from 1 till 7. So let's assume we are starting from C. 5-letter note distance would be G, so we have C, D, E, F, G, that's 5. And the number of semitones is from C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a perfect fifth. Of course, you can do that from any note. So if you start from a G sharp, any 7 semitones will give you a perfect fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's D sharp, G and D sharp. And you notice that perfect fifths, they sound nice together, right? So here, they have a certain consonance to them, but that we will discuss in another lesson. It's not relevant right now, but just keep in mind that there's a special relation when it comes to perfect fifths. So now let's go about and build all the major scales and see how it works. Just one thing to remember is that when you're dealing with a scale and a major scale, you can only use each letter one time. You cannot have in the same scale a letter showing up twice. So every major scale has every letter once. Remember it as a rule. So let's start from the C. You remember very well. We broke it down in the last lesson into 2 tetrachords. So the first one is this one. So whole, whole, half, and then there's a whole in between, and then again whole, whole, half. This is how we write it. So let's take now the second tetrachord and treat it as the first, and then we build another tetrachord afterwards, following the exact same pattern. So the second tetrachord starts with a G, so let's build the G major scale. So the second tetrachord is now the first, is this one. Okay, whole, whole, half, and then whole as a bridge, then whole, whole, we raise the F into F sharp, half. So by raising the F into the F sharp, we are building an exact tetrachord that follows the whole, whole, half pattern. So that's the G major scale. So in another way, the G major scale uses almost all of the same notes in a C major scale, except for the F becomes F sharp. That's the only difference, but they share 6 notes in common. And if you look here, basically, we raised the scale degree 7. But why stop here? Let's continue. So the second tetrachord is a D, starts with a D, E, F sharp, G. So let's start from the D. I will just go down, instead of doing it here, I will go down 1 octave just for practicality. We start with the tetrachord that we just did, and we add a new one. Whole, whole, whole. We raise the C into C sharp, D. And that's the D major scale. Again, we are raising the scale degree 7. And what you notice, in the C there is no sharps, in the G there's 1 sharp, and the D there is 2 sharps. Another thing you notice is that we are always using each letter one time. Even if it has a sharp, we use each letter one time. So D, E, F sharp in this case, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Each letter once. Let's continue. Here we are, the second tetrachord, it starts from A, and we have to follow the exact same pattern. So A, B, C sharp, D. So we're here, A, B, C sharp, D. And then we bridge with a whole, and then whole, whole. We raise the G into G sharp, and then half into A. And that's the A major scale. And you see here we raise the scale degree 7, and we have 3 sharps in this scale. Let's continue. Now it starts from E. Again, remember the sharps here. So from E, we bridge with a whole, whole, whole. We raise the D into D sharp, E. Again, each letter shows one time. And that's the E major scale, and that's the E major scale, and we raise the scale degree 7. You can see we already have 4 sharps here. We continue here, we start from B. That's the tetrachord. We bridge with the whole, whole, whole. We raise the A into A sharp, and then half, which is the B. And you see here we already used all the 5 black keys. And here you go. You see we raised the scale degree 7. We have 5 sharps, 5 black keys. Can we go more? The answer is definitely yes. And so let's start from here, which is the F sharp. And with F sharp, we start with the tetrachord, that is the second one of the previous scale. And then we do whole, whole, and then whole. Actually what happened here is this is an E sharp. So instead of E, we raised it, and then half in the end, which is the F sharp. Now you will tell me, why don't we just say F? The reason is we can only use each letter once in the scale. For F, it's already occupied with F sharp. And so here for E is the E sharp, which is what we raised before. And this is what we talked about in harmonic notes. So even if they sound the same, they're played the same, they have different functions. So this is how it looks like. F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp. And you see, we write it as E sharp, even though we're playing practically an F, the function is for E, so it's an E sharp. And so we start from the last one here, which is the C sharp. I'm going to go down an octave. So that's the tetrachord we just played in the previous scale. Then we have whole, whole, and then again here, whole, we raise the B into B sharp. And we're playing a C, but it's actually a B sharp. It's not a C. And then C sharp. Exactly, because we don't want to say C and C sharp. We say this is a B sharp and C sharp. So again here we're using the 5 black keys, but instead of using those 2 notes, we're using those 2 notes. And that is the C sharp major scale. And you see here we built 8 major scales, but there are 12 notes in an octave. So how do we do the other notes as well? Theoretically, you could continue with double sharps. So if you're starting from a G sharp here, you can continue and you put double sharp, but this is not practical and it's really hypothetical. It's not really used like this. So we need to find another way. And the other way is to go in the down direction. So if we start again from the C major. So when we were going up, we were assuming that the second tetrachord becomes the first tetrachord of the next scale, right? So now let's do the opposite. Let's assume that the first tetrachord is in itself the second tetrachord of a scale. So basically we need to go down a tetrachord. If we do so like this, so you can see here the C, D, E, F is the second tetrachord. If we go down and we maintain the same pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, we get this F, G, A. This is not an A sharp because A is already occupied. It's actually B that went down. It's a B flat. So F, G, A, B flat, and then C, D, E, F. And that is the F major scale. So what did we do here? We took the first tetrachord, we put it as the second, and in this case, we lowered the scale degree 4. We flattened it. We start from F and we lower the scale degree 4. So from C, we went down. You see what happened? We went down a fifth. Let's go down a fifth again. So from F, we go down to B flat. Whole, whole, half, then whole, 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 half. And you see what happened here is that we lowered the E into E flat. So you see the B flat major scale, we start from the B flat, then C, D, E flat, we lower the scale degree 4, F, G, A, and then B flat. So let's continue. From the B flat, we go down to E flat. So we're always going down to those. In this case, we're going down a fifth. So let's start from E flat. Whole, whole, half. We lowered here the A into A flat. And then the tetrachord that we saw before. Whole, 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 half. That's the E flat major. And you see here, we lowered the scale degree 4. And notice the same pattern here. The C had no flats. Here we have 1 flat. Here we have 2 flats. This last one is exactly the same one. So it's an octave higher. So 2 flats in the scale. Here we have 3 flats. And we continue. So let's go down also another fifth, and in this case we will land at A flat. So that's what A flat major looks like. So let's start from here. A flat, B flat, C. Then I lower the D into a D flat. So whole, whole, half, and then whole, 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 half. That's A flat major. And you see here 4 flats. Let's go down again another fifth, and we would be at the D flat. D flat starts from here. And then half, so we lower the G into G flat. Whole, 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 half. That's a D flat major. So you see D flat major, 5 flats. Now we go to G flat major. Notice here we already have the 5 flats, which means that we have the 5 black keys. A similar behavior will happen like with the sharps. So here we start G flat, A flat, B flat, and here we're lowering the C into a C flat, although we're playing a B, but the B is already occupied by the B flat. So here it's a C flat. And then we do whole, 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 half. That's how it looks like. We have 6 flats in here. And so now we do the C flat major, starting from C flat, which we played enharmonically as a B, but it's a C flat. And here we lower the F into F flat. We're playing an E, but it's an F flat. And that is the C flat major, and you see here it's all flats. All 7 notes are flats. But hang on a second, there are only 12 notes in an octave, and we just did the C and then 7 scales that have sharps in them and 7 scales that have flats in them, and that makes it 15. Is there something wrong here because we're supposed to have 12? The answer is no. There is an overlap, and the overlap happens on 3 pairs of scales. So the C sharp overlaps exactly as the D flat, and we write them completely different. So here we're starting from C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, all sharps, is the same as D flat, E flat, and so on. And you see they will follow exactly the same playing. C sharp, that what I just played is exactly the same here and the same here. The same for F sharp major scale, it's exactly the same as the G flat major scale. And then the B major scale is exactly the same as the C flat major scale. Now you'll ask me which one is the more correct. They are both technically correct, but usually the one that has less incidentals is the one that is more used. So in this case, between those two, D flat would be a bit more common. In this case, between those two here, the B would be a little bit more common. And in this case here, it's a bit 50-50. Sometimes G flat, sometimes F sharp. And this leads us to the circle of fifths. If there's something that is so fundamental in diatonic music theory, it is this concept of circle of fifth. And you already start to get some feeling that there is some pattern, there is some cyclical approach to the notes and the scales. And this is where we get into the circle of fifths. I will start to explain some of the basic concepts of it, but we will elaborate more on it later on. If you remember, we started from the C and we started to go up in fifth. So from C, the fifth is G, when we were building the major scales, right? And then here we notice that we added 1 sharp. So then to D, that's 2 sharps. Then to A, then to E, 4 sharps. Then to B, then to F sharp, and then to C sharp. You see, here we went up in fifth, and every time we added a sharp, and then here we went down in fifth, and we added a flat. So from C, we went down a fifth, C goes down to F, we added 1 flat. We go down a fifth, it's B flat. We go down a fifth, it's E flat. That's 3 flats. We go down to A flat major, that's 4 flats. We go down a fifth, that's a D flat. It's exactly like the C sharp that we did. So D flat. Go down another fifth, G flat, which is exactly the same as the F sharp. And then we go down a fifth, we would have 7 flats with a C flat. And of course, it could theoretically go further into double flats, but nobody ever does that. And so you see here the overlaps. On this side here, usually the B is favored. On this side here, usually the D flat is favored. And on this side, it's 50-50. And that's it for now. If you have any question, go ahead and write it in the comment section below. I'll make sure to answer as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this lesson, please subscribe and support this channel. I will be posting 2 lessons per week to help you on your learning journey. And I wish you a fantastic musical day.